Standing here in the peach orchard, and the monument in front of us is Hampton's Battery, Company C and F. They were two consolidated companies. Hampton's Battery was a part of McGilvey's brigade in the Artillery Reserve Corps. And here, while in this position, on July 2nd, 1863, around 5 p.m., General McLaws began his attack of Confederate infantry just there in the distance in front of us, the attack that would come upon Sickles, who outplaced himself here in the salient at the Peach Orchard when he advanced from his original lines about a mile here to our east. Hampton's Battery, being in this position, was being fired upon both from the west, from Confederate artillery, and also there from the south beyond the Sherfy house and barn. And what they did was they split their artillery. They had 4 guns placed on the Emmitsburg Road to fire back at the cannon firing from the south, and they left 2 guns here in the Peach Orchard. The onslaught of McLaw's attack overran the Peach Orchard here, and Hampton's Battery began to take casualties in both men and horses. There were 13 horses that were taken out here, and the battery was forced on the evening of July 2nd, 1863, to retreat. And the battery retreated about 400 yards to the southwest in that direction there, near the guns of the 9th Massachusetts Battery. And that was their second position of the day, before again retreating over to Cemetery Ridge. So this has been part 1 of Hampton's Battery on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. Okay, this video is going to be on Hampton's Battery part 2. Hampton's Battery's Company C and F was a consolidated battery. It was commanded by a Captain Robert B. Hampton and a Captain James Thompson. After the retreat, when McLaws attacked the Peach Orchard, the guns fell back to this position that we're now standing about 400 yards away from the Peach Orchard, which is in that direction there. Now, during this retreat, a private named Casper Carlisle performed an action which would later get him the Congressional Medal of Honor. And what he did with only 2 wheel horses that were harnessed to his limber, and one of those horses was mortally wounded, and with Captain James Thompson tugging at the bridle, Carlisle pulled his rifle cannon away from the Wheatfield Road in the Peach Orchard, and also pulled those guns away from what would be certain capture. Only one gun was left behind in the Peach Orchard. So with all these horses being wounded, he was able to save their guns and bring them along with the retreat. He would win the Congressional Medal of Honor for his actions. So that was Private Casper Carlisle, member of Hampton's Battery. The monument that we just took a look at there was actually dedicated on September the 11th, 1889. And then from this area here, as the Confederate onslaught continued and they began to continue the push through the Peach Orchard, across this field in front of us, and then even down here beyond the Trossel barn and farmhouse, toward the camera in front of us, which is Cemetery Ridge, and that is where Hampton's Battery made their stand on the late evening of July 2nd and going into the early morning of July 3rd, 1863. So this has been part 2 of Hampton's Battery on Gettysburg Battlefield. Okay, we are standing here just across the street from the Pennsylvania Monument here, and we are looking at the monument tablet, which was dedicated on July 3rd, 1885, for Hampton's Battery. This was the position, the furthest fallback position, or the 3rd position, that they fell back to on the late night of July 2nd, 1863, from the position about 3/4 of a mile in front of us. You can see directly in front of us the 2nd position that we just came from, and then the Sherfy Peach Orchard. To the left will be the Trossel house and the Trossel barn. Now, as Hampton's Battery fell back here on the late night and into the early morning of July 3rd, 1863, they held this ground here. And then as the Pettigrew Trimble picket assault began on July 3rd, 1863. The overwhelming cannonade that enveloped preceding the battle began to rain shells down in this area upon Hampton's battery. They stayed in this position with their guns, and some of their dead were dragged off the battlefield, as well as their wounded, to a fourth position on the other side of the Pennsylvania Monument, which we're going to take a look at in our next video as part of the Secrets of the Battlefield series. But again, this is the third position, the position that they held during Pickett's charge of Hampton's batteries, the independent company C&F, of the Independent Artillery, on July 3rd, 1863, on Gettysburg Battlefield, Facebook. Okay, I'm standing here on the other side of the Pennsylvania Monument, as you can see over here in the distance, and we're looking at this rock here as a part of our Hampton's Battery series. This is going to be Secrets of the Battlefield. This is the Hampton's Battery rock. In July 3rd, 1863, as Pickett, Pettigrew, and Trimble began their monstrous assaults across Seminary Ridge onto Cemetery Ridge in this direction, the overshot from the Confederate artillery was reaching into this very area here at Cemetery Ridge. And batteries and infantry were taking a lot of casualties from direct hits, but most of the artillery was actually going over their heads and into the back end areas beyond the troops. Members of Hampton's battery removed some of their dead and a lot of their wounded and hid behind this very rock, giving it the nickname, as we know it today, the Hampton's Battery Rock. And for years and years, this rock had gone unnoticed because the park began to have overgrowth of trees, and this rock at one time, just about 35 years ago, was completely covered by trees, vine, and brush. About 10 feet from where it stands, it was covered by trees in this area until discovered in 1990. Now, on the back side of the rock here, as you can see, it goes down flat, and it has a little ledge, and this is the area right here on the ground where the dead and wounded were piled. The dead were put behind here to protect their bodies from, further damage and to honor their remains. And of course, the wounded were here to be protected from the artillery barrage of Pickett's charge. And this is one of those rocks that the majority of visitors, as you can see today, I'm standing out here alone, even though we have several hundred people over here on the Pennsylvania Monument and the bathroom facility, and then even some Civil War reenactors. There isn't a single person looking or noticing this rock, and for the most part its story isn't real well known. It's one of those secrets of the battlefield. So again, this is part 4 of our Hampton's Battery series, and we're going to do Secrets of the Battlefield here. This is the Hampton's Battery Rock on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook.